Australia, a country located in the Southern Hemisphere between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It ranks as the world's sixth largest country, covering a massive 7,692,024 square kilometers. The geographical status of Australia is controversial. It is not universally accepted as either a continent or an island alone. If Australia were considered an island, it would be the world's largest. If it were considered a continent, it would be the world's smallest. The country covers the entire mainland of the Australian continent, which carries the same name, making up about 90% of its landmass. Australia is a geographically isolated country. While its closest neighbor, New Zealand, is just a 3-hour flight away, the distances to countries that may appear close on the map are at least 7 or 8 hours by plane. The distance between Los Angeles and Sydney is approximately 7,500 miles or 12,000 kilometers, and a non-stop flight takes around 15.5 hours on average. Australia has 6 different time zones on the mainland. If we take the capital Canberra or the most popular cities like Sydney and Melbourne as reference points, the time in Australia is 17 hours ahead of California. While every country has its specific culture and traditional codes, Australia has a diverse and inclusive nature of identity due to its multicultural structure. This is one of the countries where racism is least prevalent. Anyone who sets foot in the country is embraced and accepted as Australian. In the country, there are over 270 different ethnic groups living, and more than 250 different languages and over 800 dialects are spoken. 33% of its multicultural population considers themselves Australian. However, Aboriginal people who are the native Australians forming just 3.8% of the populace. The deserts cover about 20% of the Australian mainland, and approximately 70% of the continent is arid or semi-arid. Around 40% of the country's land is unsuitable for settlement, making it uninhabitable. It's the second driest continent on the planet after Antarctica. The heart of Australia is a vast desert, which is called outback. It's a region with a wide array of wildlife, including numerous poisonous insects and reptiles, making it the most dangerous part of the country. About 90% of the population resides in the coastal areas you see. In regions located 50 kilometers away from the coast, it's rare to find people living. In fact, 75% of the population lives in this blue area. Wildlife is just part of everyday life. Like, it's quite normal for a crocodile to casually show up while you are cruising down the road in your car. Swimming is often prohibited in lakes in the country due to the presence of crocodiles. The population of this massive country, which covers approximately 78% of the land area of the United States, is just around 25 million. Considering its size, Australia ranks as the 4th least densely populated country on the globe. Since 1976, the country hasn't been questioning racial background in population censuses. According to estimates, Europeans make up about 90% of the population. Other majority groups include Asians, mostly from countries such as China, India, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The population of the indigenous Australians is only 3%. This is a true immigrant country. Around 30% of the population were born abroad. In fact, nearly 1 in 3 people living here is an immigrant. If we consider urban centers, this ratio is even higher. There is no official religion here. Christians constitute 52.1% of the population, followed by 30.1% who are non-religious, 2.6% Muslims, 2.4% Buddhists, and 1.9% Hindus. The remaining belong to other religions. Australia ranks 8th in life expectancy globally. While the average life expectancy worldwide is 63.7, it is 83.64 here. At the same time, it holds the 6th most powerful passport in the world, providing visa-free access to a total of 189 countries. Let's look at the daily life in the country. The country actually has no official language, but since more than 80% of the population uses English as their mother tongue, official transactions are conducted in English. The currency of the country is the Australian dollar. According to today's exchange rates, $1 is equivalent to 1.50 Australian dollars. By the way, all banknotes in the country are made of plastic. One of the main reasons for producing plastic money is that it's very difficult to imitate. These banknotes made from polymer are not only much more durable and hygienic, but also, importantly, recyclable. However, it is drawing criticism from vegan and vegetarian groups in the country because its production uses a substance called tallow, a type of fat derived from animals such as cows and pigs, to prevent friction and static electricity. In this country, the minimum wage is 23.23 Australian dollars per hour, which amounts to around 3,800 Australian dollars per month, and only a very small portion of the population works for minimum wage. The average annual salary is between 80,000 to 90,000 Australian dollars. Engineers earn annual salaries starting from 80,000 Australian dollars, with the average ranging between 120,000 to 130,000, while doctors' salaries vary between 150,000 to 350,000 Australian dollars. There is no status difference among professions. A painter and a manager can dine at the same table after work without questioning each other's jobs. Contrary to what might be usual, employees receive their salaries every 2 weeks. Consequently, rent is also charged on a fortnightly basis too. However, other bills follow a slightly different schedule. For example, hot water bills are paid every 2 months, while electricity and internet bills are paid monthly. One can live a quality life based on their earnings without needing to work in a high-ranking position. To provide a simple example, someone earning only the minimum wage in the country can afford to buy almost 50 kilograms of meat per week. While a whole chicken costs only 13 Australian dollars, 1 kilogram of chicken thigh ranges from $4 to $5, and ground meat is priced between $16 and $20. The prices for various cuts of meat start from 15 Australian dollars. Products approaching their expiration date are sold at less than half price. Daily made items like cakes and sandwiches are heavily discounted in the evenings, almost being sold for free. For instance, people can purchase a second-hand car with just 1 month's salary or a computer with 2 days' worth of pay. When comparing the living standards in the country, groceries, clothing, and electronics are inexpensive, while labor is quite expensive. For a simple example, if you decide to paint a 3-bedroom house, you may receive an estimate of around $5,000. However, the cost of the paint used is only $500. In institutions like banks, there is no lunch break. They remain open continuously from morning until evening. Thursdays are considered a shopping day for Australians because malls and stores usually close at 5 p.m., except on Thursdays when they stay open until 9 p.m. In the nation's biggest supermarket chains, children can pick up fruits for free from special baskets located in the fruit section. Alcohol isn't sold in regular supermarkets, but rather in a separate market known as Bottle-O. Selling alcohol to individuals who are already intoxicated or those under the age of 18 is strictly prohibited. ID checks are always performed. If people are hosting a party with alcohol even in their private homes, they need to obtain written permission from their parents for guests under the age of 18. Losing your license due to alcohol can be a major obstacle in many ways, from taking out loans to finding a job. If you commit this offense, it follows you in every aspect of life. Australians equate this with a lack of self-control and trustworthiness. For instance, a person with such a record can never work as a taxi driver in their lifetime. The Australian government has strict regulations against smoking. It was the first country to have plain packaging in 2011. Here, all cigarette packages are black and feature health warnings. Average 20-pack of cigarettes is sold for $40 to $50, and smoking is restricted in outdoor areas. Although it varies by states and regions, smoking is banned on beaches, at stops, and in parks. Melbourne is expected to become the first city to completely ban smoking in the next 10 years. Throwing a cigarette butt out of a car window results in a $660 fine. If there is a total fire ban in place, typically between November and April, a fine of up to $11,000 will also apply in that case. In Australia, which has one of the highest per capita gambling rates, over 80% of adults engage in gambling. 20% of poker machines worldwide are located in this country. Housing in Australia is notably expensive, yet owning a home isn't impossible. The country has low interest rates, and a large number of people choose mortgages, paying off their homes over an average of 30 years, similar to paying rent. Additionally, Australians are generally a wealthy population. They often inherit homes and lands from their elders and typically sell these properties, adding money to buy a new house. They rank 5th on the list of the net worth of adults in different countries. In the city, 1-bedroom apartments start at $700,000, while 3-bedroom apartments begin begin at $1.3 million. Outside the city, one-bedroom apartments cost around $400,000 and three-bedroom apartments can reach up to an average of $1 million. Separate houses in the city are around $2 to $3 million. In suburban areas, they start from $700,000 and can go up to 1.5 million Australian dollars. People who visit or live in the country say that Australians are very relaxed and respectful towards each other. People usually don't talk about each other's private lives. Even when talking one-on-one, they avoid asking personal questions. In the country, every house has separate bins for recycling. The government encourages recycling by refunding 10 cents for each item of waste like bottles or milk cartons. Under the Hard Rubbish Collection Program, heavy waste is collected in each neighborhood at least once a year. People put out items they can't throw in the trash, such as sofas, broken refrigerators, and bicycles in front of their homes, and the municipality collects these items for free. Additionally, those in need can also benefit from these items. With its close connection to nature, expansive parks, clear air, houses with gardens, and extremely low crime rates make it one of the most ideal countries to live in. According to the Better Life Index prepared by the OECD, considering criteria such as housing, income, health, education, safety, and happiness, Australia ranks second in the world. It's no surprise that 3 of the world's top 10 most livable cities are located here. In fact, Melbourne was selected as the world's most livable city for 7 consecutive years up until 2017. In coastal settlements, it's totally normal to walk around the streets barefoot. The people living with a laid-back culture philosophy are always happy and smiling. For example, it's quite common to be asked how your day is going by the staff after they greet you in a store. They are very fond of having fun, always finding something to celebrate and organizing festivals. Thanks to its multicultural composition, the country has a highly diverse culinary culture. It is often said that dishes from all around the world are delicious as if prepared in their home countries. In Australian cuisine, fairy bread holds an iconic and nostalgic place. This popular treat, often served at children's parties, is made of white bread buttered and sprinkled with hundreds and thousands. In Australia, people mainly use trains for public transportation. Trust is very important in the country, to the extent that some train stations don't have ticket gates at the entrance. But if you don't use your card correctly, you can get a big fine. Cars have their steering wheels on the right side and traffic flows on the left. Australia also has the world's second longest highway. This road, even longer than the Earth's diameter, is about 14,500 kilometers long and it connects all the cities in Australia. If you drive on it without stopping at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, it would take about 6 days to go from one end to the other. In Australia, there are so many animal species that it is estimated only about 30% of them have been discovered to date. The country hosts some remarkably unique animal species not found anywhere else in the world, and these animals can be quite dangerous to humans. There are only 2 mammals in the world that lay eggs, platypuses and echidnas. Both of these animals live exclusively in Australia. Koalas are another animal unique to Australia. However, there is an animal in the country with a population 10 times larger than koalas: camels. It may sound surprising, but the camel population in Australia is even greater than that in Egypt, making it the country with the world's highest camel population, which today imports camels to Saudi Arabia. The box jellyfish, which is the world's most venomous creature, also inhabits Australia. It is known that approximately 100 people have lost their lives due to this jellyfish. In 2022, a 14-year-old teenager lost his life within minutes after getting stung by it. Australia is home to 21 of the world's top 25 most venomous snakes. Additionally, it boasts over 1,500 spiders and more than 4,000 ant species, making them some of the most commonly encountered creatures in the country. Bumping at spiders and flying cockroaches at home is a quite ordinary situation. Although rare, another creature occasionally found in homes is lizards. Although not common, even snakes emerging from toilets have made headlines in the country. Australia is abundant in various bird species. Parrots are flying above in urban cities. In more rural areas, it's possible to come across eagles. Australia not only houses the world's most venomous animals, but also the most venomous plants. The world's most dangerous plant, Gympie, or commonly known as the suicide plant, is found here. It earned this name because when people contact with its leaves containing a powerful neurotoxin, it causes such intense pain that it can drive them to suicide. A man who used a leaf of this tree as toilet paper in the forest couldn't bear the pain and shot himself dead. instead. Research revealed that the toxin from the plant could remain effective for up to 20 years. Someone else who touched this plant mentioned that while the severe pain lessened over time, it took about 2 years for it to completely go away, and the pain was at least 10 times worse than the worst pain they had ever experienced. In Australia's dry desert, a special animal called the thorny devil can gather water from all over its body. The moisture from dew and rain trapped between its skin spikes moves towards its mouth, and this mechanism allows it to hydrate and stay alive. It is the country with the third largest sheep population in the world after China and India. In fact, their numbers are around 63.5 million. People started building fences to protect these sheep from wild dogs called dingoes, and over time, the length of this fence reached 5,114 kilometers, earning the title of the world's longest fence. The country's most iconic symbol is the kangaroo, with a population nearly twice the size of the human population. There is an interesting story behind the name kangaroo for these creatures that can cover a distance of 7.5 meters in a single leap. It is said that when Captain James Cook first visited the continent, he saw a strange animal hopping by and asked the natives what it was. They replied, "Kangaroo," which meant "I don't understand you" in their native language. Cook mistakenly took that reply as the name of the animal, and that became accepted. Another interesting thing about kangaroos is that when they are first born, they weigh only 1 gram and are about 2 centimeters in size. After an average pregnancy period of around 1 month, the undeveloped baby is born and promptly climbs into the pouch, staying inside for roughly 6 months. In 2023, the Australian government officially decided to shoot 5 million kangaroos to control the population boom. Currently, it is estimated that the number of kangaroos in the country is around 40 million. Plants and animals are totems for Aboriginal peoples. A totem is a spiritual sign that links a person to the universe, and these are given to the child at the time of birth. One will never harm their totem animal and is responsible for their totem's survival by protecting it in different ways. As everyone is given a specific totem, this means that each part of nature has a caretaker, contributing to the ecological balance. Sports hold a significant place in Australian culture. Even on workdays, many people engage in sports during lunch breaks and then get back to work. However, despite all these common habits, one of the country's major problems is the increasing rate of obesity in the last 20 years. 75% of men and 60% of women aged 18 years and over are living with overweight or obesity. Studies show that 1 in every 10 children under school age are already overweight. Australia is known for having the highest rates of skin cancer. This is largely because the ozone layer above Australia is thinner than normal, and it's depleted in some parts. The ozone layer, as you may know, is what protects us from the sun's harmful rays. However, in Australia, people are not fully shielded from these dangerous rays. They never go outside without using sunscreen with at least 50 SPF, regardless of the season. Additionally, certain weather sites even show the daily levels of ultraviolet radiation. According to IQ Air reports, Australia is the 4th country with the cleanest air in the world. Despite common misconceptions, it's not always summer here. The country is so big that there are climate differences between states. The north remains warm throughout the year, whereas the south does experience mild winters. Since Australia is in the Southern Hemisphere, the seasons are the opposite of those in the Northern Hemisphere. This means July and August are the coldest months in Australia, while December and January are the hottest. Christmas in Australia typically falls in the summer and includes beach parties, barbecues, and cricket matches. In the country, Australian Alps get more snow than the Swiss Alps each year, making winter sports really popular. Australia has a unique and diverse flora. Interestingly, the trees that burn in the country don't die. Instead, they start to regrow. One of the country's most stunning natural wonders is Lake Hillier. This lake, stretching out for 600 meters, has a vivid pink color thanks to the pigments released by a certain type of algae in the water. Australia is known for its beaches, with around 12,000 in total, all free to visit. If you were to spend a day at each beach, it would take you 32 years to see them all. Despite taking necessary precautions in the beaches where shark attacks occur, there have been 107 incidents, with 15 resulting in fatalities in the last 5 years. Now, let's take a brief look at its past to help you gain a better understanding of Australia's structure. The original inhabitants of these lands are the Aborigines, who continue one of the world's oldest cultures. According to some theories, the Aboriginal people arrived from Indonesia when sea levels were low, while others suggest they migrated from Africa to Australia around 72,000 years ago. What is certain is that the Aboriginal people have lived on these lands for over 50,000 years. The story of how Australia was formed is both fascinating and cruel. The country was first discovered in 1606 by the Dutch, who named it New Holland, and its neighboring island New Zealand after the Dutch province of Zeeland. However, the Dutch did not consider establishing settlements in such a distant continent and did not carry out an extensive exploration. Unaware of this discovery, the British rediscovered the continent in 1770. At that time, the United Kingdom faced rising crime rates and prisons were overcrowded. England used to send some of its criminals to its colonies in North America, but after the American Revolution, the U.S. closed its doors to British convicts. Then the British decided to use the newly discovered land as a penal colony in 1788. Convicts were sent with a group of officials to these lands at the far end of the world. During that period, there were around 1 million Aboriginal people leaving a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle across the continent. The British initially forced the Aboriginal people to leave their home and pushed them into deserts. They also brought infectious diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, causing the decimation of the Aboriginal population. The indigenous people, having never encountered these diseases before, were weakened and hundreds of thousands rapidly died. Over 80 years, more than 160,000 convicts were exiled to these lands. Later, with the discovery of gold mines in 1851, people, mostly of British origin, were looking to build a new life and began migrating to this colony established by criminals. As the British colonized Australia, they dehumanized indigenous people and hunted them cruelly. The locals, including women and children, were subjected to genocide. Women were sterilized without their consent. A part of the indigenous population died from poisons added to their food by the colonizers, while the majority fell victim to brutal tortures. The first peoples of the continent were becoming extinct along with their millennia-old traditions. In 112 years, the Aboriginal population lost 90% of their people. Those who survived were forced into slavery. As a result of large migrations from England and Ireland, the Australian Federation was established in 1901. Today's Australia was founded by English convicts. In fact, even the country's first police force was a group of 12 convicts. Allegedly, a quarter of the current population is said to be descendants of British convicts. However, Australia is now among the countries with the lowest crime rates in the world. While today's Australia is relatively free from racism, the initial goal during the formation of the country was to create a homogeneous white population with a common culture. For a period of 70 years, under the name of the White Australia policy, only European and British origin individuals were allowed to immigrate, transforming the country into a completely white immigrant nation. Since 1966, Australia has been allowing immigrants from certain countries who could contribute to its society, and by 1973, it started to embrace immigration without any discrimination. In 1973, discrimination in immigration policies was officially left. In 1998, 33% of all immigrants to the country were born in Asia. Finally, in 1967, the Aboriginal people were recognized as citizens and counted in the population census. However, they only gained the basic rights and freedoms that every Australian citizen should have in 1997. In that year, Australia acknowledged the mistreatment of Aborigines and offered an apology approximately 200 years after the massacre in 2008. One of the cruelest episodes in Aboriginal history took place between 1910 and 1970. Official records indicate 30,000, but it's believed that around 100,000 Indigenous children were forcibly separated from their families and placed with English families for labor. The date when British ships first arrived on these lands, January 26, is celebrated as a national holiday called Australia Day. While this day highlights Australia's multiculturalism, for the Aboriginal people and thousands of others, it represents a day of invasion and genocide. Even after achieving independence, Australia still maintains ties with England. As a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, Australia is a federation of 6 states ruled under a parliamentary monarchy with a constitution. The head of state is Charles III, also recognized as the King of Australia, and is represented in Australia by a Governor-General. While the country is led by an elected Prime Minister, the Governor-General has the power power to dismiss the Prime Minister. In 1999, a referendum was held to transform Australia into a republic, replacing Queen Elizabeth with an elected president, but it was rejected by the public with a 54.87% majority. The country, which was a British colony for a long time, has the United Kingdom flag in the upper left corner of its own flag. Additionally, the celebration of the British monarch's birthday as a national holiday is another indication of their ongoing ties to the British. The public holiday, previously celebrated as Queen's Birthday for 70 years, has continued as King's Birthday since 2023, after the death of Queen Elizabeth and Charles III's rise to the throne. I will be uploading more videos about countries, so don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Sumeira Chenet was here. See you in the next one. Bye.